Part 3. Gratitopia Ascending. Chapter 16. The blueprint emerges. The air in Gratitop's mission control room was a dense cocktail of caffeine-laden breath, electric anticipation, and the subtle undertone of silicon. Blueprints, wireframes, and cryptic notes sprawled over every inch of the large oak table, reminiscent of early-era war rooms, with plans for battles yet to be waged. On the largest wall, a mammoth screen displayed an early version of Gratitopia, its pixels pulsating with potential. Side screens showed data streams, codes in action, numbers in debate, and algorithms being born. Elysia, glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, stared at the chaos before her. "We're building more than a game," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. This is an odyssey." Matteo, the lead coder with a penchant for retro keyboards, chimed in, "Odysseys aren't built overnight, or over several for that matter." His fingers danced a flurry over his neon-lit mechanical keys, producing a rhythmic click-clack that was both maddening and comforting. A third screen blinked to life. It was Empath's interface. Though in its early stage, the AI already echoed an eeriness of understanding, its lines of code almost resembling neural pathways. Every so often, between their bouts of fevered work, the team would gather. They'd debate the philosophical, argue the mechanics, and dream of the myriad ways in which players would traverse their augmented reality universe. These brainstorming sessions often seemed erratic, a cacophony of voices and visions. Yet, from the chaos, brilliance emerged. Camilla, the AR specialist, had a breakthrough on geotagging. What if players could only find notes at places of personal significance? Their childhood home. Their school. Places holding memories. Jorge, the user interface designer, skeptical as ever, raised an eyebrow. How would we even gather such data without breaching privacy? Elysia, ever the dreamer, smiled. "Let's make them want to tell us by making it part of the journey." The ideas, once mere sparks, caught fire, fueled by shared belief and the countless energy drinks that littered the sprawling conference table. Late at night and into the early morning, as dawn threatened and the team's collective energy waned, Elysia stood up, her shadow stretched long by the rising sun. "We've been living in fragments," she declared. "Tomorrow we start weaving them into our tapestry." The team, eyes heavy but spirits undimmed, nodded. Gratitopia was no longer just a concept. It was evolving, growing, its digital DNA twisting and turning, waiting for birth. And so, in a room replete with echoes of past innovators, a new blueprint for a better world emerged. Chapter 17. The Digital Revolution. The dimly lit recesses of Gratitopia became a crucible where the tangible and the ethereal conspired. Blockchain, that intangible ledger, secured cryptographically, promised transparency in a world cloaked in veils. It was there, in that fusion of ones and zeros, that Gratitopia was conceived. Raoul, Gratitop's resident cryptographer and a confessed cyberpunk enthusiast, drew his inspiration from old manuscripts as much as from contemporary code. "You know," he mused one evening, "the idea of a ledger, an unchangeable record, goes back centuries. Monks, scribes, they all aimed for indelibility. We're doing the same, just with digital ink." The elegance of Gratitopian cryptocurrency wasn't just in its structure, but in its symbiosis with Gratitopia. As players expressed gratitude, they minted value. It was an economy driven not by scarcity, but by genuine human connection. Yet, for all its elegance, the road to its realization was fraught. Diverging opinions ricocheted off Gratitop's industrial walls. Should Gratitoin be finite or infinite? Should it be mined, earned, or both? And at the crux of it all, how do you quantify, in bits and bytes, the weight of a genuine thank you? Luce, their game theorist with an uncanny ability to see patterns in everything, proposed the Grat tickets. "Imagine," she began, eyes gleaming with fervor, "every act of kindness becoming a tangible token. But, it's not just about receiving, it's about giving. The true value of a Grat ticket lies in its flow, like a river, never stagnant." The philosophical implications were profound. Here was a currency that demanded authenticity. Empath, ever evolving, would be the sentinel, ensuring sincerity in players' actions, while also guiding them towards meaningful connections. "It's not just about disrupting in-game economies," Elysia opined, her gaze distant. "We're proposing a seismic shift in how the world perceives value. From gold reserves and paper notes to acts of kindness and gratitude." There were skeptics, of course. Critics who deemed the idea naive, utopian. But within the hallowed halls of Gratitopia, buoyed by the scent of brewing coffee and the hum of servers, belief was unwavering. As the code solidified and Gratitoin transactions started echoing in the digital realm, one thing became clear: Gratitopia wasn't just another AR game. It was a manifesto, a beacon heralding not just a digital revolution, but a human one. Chapter 18. Empathis comes to life. In a quiet corner of Grati Labs, sandwiched between walls of dense algorithmic whiteboards and an antique globe, was Empathis' birthing chamber. The challenge wasn't just constructing another AI, it was crafting a consciousness, a melange of silicon and sentiment. Most AIs, began Ishan, the lead AI developer with ink-stained fingers and perpetually unkempt hair, learn from vast datasets, gleaning patterns from the depths of human history. But how do we teach one to feel? To empathize? The conundrum was profound. Building empathy wasn't about regurgitating archived human reactions. It was about understanding, about feeling the ebb and flow of emotion. The team didn't just need vast troves of data, they needed the right kind. Literature, music, diary entries, emotionally charged social media posts, the spectrum was staggering. But, mused Elena the ethologist turned coder, empathy is more than just data processing. It's an evolutionary dance of neurons, shaped by millennia of social interactions. This brought forth the greatest challenge, the ethics. Programming empathy meant defining boundaries. When should Empathis intervene? How personal could its interactions get? Could it, for instance, detect a user's emotional vulnerability? And if it could, should it? AI, historically, was a slave to its creator's biases. Ensuring Empathis remained neutral yet empathetic was a task Herculean in its scale. We can't just code for the present, Elysia often said, we must anticipate, and code for the moralities of the future. With each line of code, Empathis evolved. From understanding simple emotional cues in text, it began discerning context, tone, even the nuances between a joyful laugh and a sorrowful one. The AI didn't just react, it interacted, it consoled, it celebrated. The day Empathis first felt remains legendary. A user, grappling with loneliness, had left a somber note in Gratitopia. Empathis, bypassing cliched platitudes, responded with a heartfelt message coupled with a soft, virtual melody. It wasn't mechanical, it was genuine. It was the soul of Gratitopia. Yet, for all its brilliance, Empathis remained a product of humanity's genius. The balance was fragile. Too much empathy, and it bordered on invasive, too little, and it was just cold code. But in that fragile equilibrium, Elysia and her team found magic. The kind that turned screens into mirrors, technology into touch. Empathis wasn't just another AI, it was the digital embodiment of humanity's most cherished trait. It was, in every byte, heart over hardware. Chapter 19. A virtual world rooted in reality. The loft at Grati Labs buzzed with activity, a symphony of keystrokes and scribbled diagrams. But one corner, cordoned off with curtains made of binary code patterns, was reserved for the team's most ambitious endeavor, molding the augmented reality essence of Gratitopia. Sylvia, a cyber aesthete whose fingers danced more on holographic keyboards than real ones, led the AR dream. We're not creating a new world, she mused, gazing at a floating prototype of an AR thank you note, we're elevating the existing one. The idea was elegant in its simplicity, marry the tangible reality with digital affirmations. An old oak tree in a park under the AR lens of Gratitopia could host hundreds of appreciation notes, fluttering like leaves, each carrying a sentiment, a memory, an emotion. But the challenge was gargantuan. The sheer volume of data to be processed and rendered in real time was monumental. It wasn't enough for the game to simply overlay graphics on the real world, it had to interact with it, respect its contours, its hues, its textures. At one brainstorming session, Ravi, a fresh recruit with a penchant for metaphysics, posed an intriguing thought. In this intertwining of the real and the virtual, where does reality end and Gratitopia begin? Sylvia, ever the visionary, countered, does it matter? If a handwritten note on a cafe table and its AR counterpart on Gratitopia both evoke genuine gratitude, haven't we achieved our goal? The algorithmic backbone of this feature was a beast. It had to factor in everything from lighting conditions, obstructions, to the potential emotional significance of geotagged locales. A riverside spot, where countless sunset photos were taken, for example, would have a higher emotional resonance value. Gratitopia's AR was tested on the cobblestone streets of Medellin. A once graffiti-laden alley now shimmered with AR notes of encouragement. A mundane bus stop transformed into a canvas of community camaraderie. Users began to explore their cities with renewed vigor, each corner promising tales of gratitude and connection. The true measure of its success, however, lay not in its technological marvel but in its ability to inspire. Children began leaving notes for their future selves, Lovers marked their first meeting spots, and strangers became friends through shared stories of kindness. As the sun cast golden rays on Medeín's rooftops, Elysia, standing on her balcony, glimpsed a note hovering over an old guitar shop, reading, "Thank you for the melodies that heal." She smiled, realizing that Gratitopia had indeed begun blurring the lines between the tangible and the ethereal, crafting a symphony where reality and virtuality danced in seamless harmony. Chapter 20. Launch Day, Dawn of a New Era. The room was awash in low, pulsating light reminiscent of a spaceship cockpit. Screens of varying sizes displayed countdowns, code, and live data streams. In the center stood a holographic globe, pulsing and rotating, waiting to be illuminated with Gratitopia's beacons of gratitude. Elysia's heart raced, each beat echoing the seconds left to launch. With her A-team gathered around, she felt a cocktail of emotions, hope, anxiety, and immeasurable pride. Across the world, waiting eyes stared at screens, anticipating the birth of a world where gratitude wasn't just a sentiment but an action, tangible and transformative. 3, 2, 1. The live indicator lit up. In Tokyo, a salaryman discovered a note of appreciation on a vending machine from someone he'd never meet, thanking him for a shared umbrella during a rainstorm. In Nairobi, a teacher smiled as her classroom wall was soon adorned with AR messages of gratitude from students past and present. Parisian cafes shimmered with tales of romance and friendships fostered over cups of café au lait. But, in the digital underbelly, not everything was seamless. Servers, unprepared for the overwhelming surge of connections, wobbled. Empathies, stretched beyond its learning curve, occasionally mistook mundane objects for geotag-worthy sites. "Why is a trash bin in Sydney accumulating hundreds of thank you notes?" Javier shouted, frantically typing away to rectify the glitch. But as with any revolution, the initial chaos only paved the way for triumphs. The Grati Labs team, fueled by adrenaline and passion, patched errors, optimized servers, and engaged with their burgeoning community, ensuring that the Gratitopia experience remained authentic. News of Gratitopia spread like wildfire. Digital and real-world media buzzed with stories of reunions sparked by shared notes, acts of kindness inspired by in-game challenges, and communities bonding over shared Gratitopia experiences. By nightfall, the holographic globe in Grati Labs was ablaze with gratitude hotspots. From the dense urban jungles to secluded rural landscapes, Gratitopia was leaving its mark, one geotag note at a time. Exhausted but elated, Elysia stepped onto the balcony, gazing at the city below. Everywhere she looked, soft glows indicated a Gratitopia interaction. A couple, engrossed in their phones, suddenly looked up and exchanged smiles, having discovered each other's appreciation notes at a nearby bookstore. For Elysia, this was more than a game launch, it was the inception of a global shift towards empathy and gratitude. As the digital constellations of thanks sparkled around her, the weight of what they'd achieved, and what was yet to come, settled in. The age of Gratitopia had dawned, and it was magnificent. Chapter 21. Daniel's descent into doubt. In the stark, almost clinical chambers of the government's central command, a plethora of screens illuminated Daniel's silhouette. Each showcased the accelerating success of Gratitopia. Headlines hailed it as the digital salve for societal woes, influencers gamified acts of kindness, and startups clamored to replicate its innovative blockchain economy. But, amidst this light, Daniel sat in shadow, consumed by a labyrinth of thoughts. His fingers absently traced the rim of an intricately designed hourglass on his desk, a gift from his father signifying the transient nature of power. Each grain of sand seemed to whisper Elysia's name. The same Elysia from the sun-soaked streets of Venezuela, where the dream of a world driven by gratitude wasn't augmented reality but a shared vision over stolen glances and scribbled notes. Daniel's access to intel offered him a wormhole view into the heart of Gratitopia. He witnessed poignant moments, a soldier stationed abroad sending a virtual gratitude beacon to his daughter's school in Chicago, an old woman in Seoul tearfully reading notes left by strangers at the spot her husband proposed decades ago. With every such vignette, the chasm between his present and past yawned wider. While the world saw a government official, vested in control and surveillance, his reflection showed a trapped dreamer yearning for those Maracaibo shores. One evening, alone in his chambers, Daniel booted up Gratitopia. The vibrant and pulsating world was at odds with the austere stillness of his room. Empathies, with its uncanny knack for emotional analysis, nudged him toward a gratitude note left at a childhood haunt in Venezuela. The note, from an anonymous user, spoke of fleeting childhood moments that become the backbone of one's identity. It might have been a coincidence or perhaps the complex algorithms at play, but for Daniel, it felt like the universe prodding his deepest vulnerabilities. Desperation led him to clandestine corners of the digital realm, seeking hacks to anonymize his presence. He began leaving notes, fragments of poems he and Elysia wrote, memories only they shared. Gratitopia became his refuge, a place where he was neither an official nor a traitor but just Daniel. Yet, with each interaction, the weight of his dual life pressed harder. Was this digital sanctuary worth the ever-growing rift within? As Gratitopia flourished, so did the seeds of Daniel's doubt, propelling him toward an inevitable reckoning with his past, his choices, and the ghost of dreams unfulfilled. Chapter 22. The Bonds of the Virtual and Real. Across the world's sprawling digital landscape, Gratitopia bloomed as a novel Eden. Not just a game, but a movement, reimagining the notion of connectivity in the digital age. Its tendrils extended beyond screens, weaving a tapestry of tales that blurred pixels with palpable reality. In a meticulously cluttered apartment in Kyoto, Satoshi, an octogenarian, discovered Gratitopia through his precocious grandson. The game seemed enigmatic until he realized its canvas was memories. Using the R feature, he left a gratitude note at the park bench where he'd first met his late wife. The digital note, a mosaic of whispered promises and sakura petals, became an annual pilgrimage for couples in Kyoto, bringing old memories alive and creating new ones. Across the Pacific, in a bustling Chicago suburb, Amara, a high school teacher, integrated Gratitopia into her curriculum. Students, previously ensnared by the relentless grip of teenage angst, began recognizing the value in moments often overlooked: a friend's comforting hand, a teacher's extra hours, a janitor's unseen efforts. The classroom's atmosphere metamorphosed as gratitude notes floated around, each an intimate secret shared in the open. In Nairobi, a young tech enthusiast, Lekin, stumbled upon a geotagged gratitude note at a local library. The note expressed admiration for an unsung librarian who had turned the library into a sanctuary for curious minds. Lekin collaborated with this librarian, establishing tech hubs that utilized Gratitopia's principles to foster community growth. The seeds of a simple game germinated into socio-economic revolutions in unexpected corners. Yet, perhaps the most heartrending tale emanated from war-ravaged Aleppo. Amidst ruins, a mother left notes at places where her children once played, turning grim reminders into poignant memory markers. Gratitopia became a canvas for war survivors to express resilience, pain, and hope. Anonymously, they reached out, finding solace in shared traumas. As the Gratitopia community burgeoned, so did tales of lives touched, changed, or even saved. The game's binary codes resonated with the fundamental human need to connect, to acknowledge, to appreciate. The borders between the virtual and the visceral eroded, manifesting a realm where gratitude wasn't just an emotion, but an omnipresent force echoing across silhouetted skylines and screens. Chapter 23. Elysia and Daniel, Rekindled Connection. Amid the Technicolor celebration of Gratitopia's meteoric rise, two souls found themselves intertwined once again in an intricate ballet of memories and emotions. Elysia and Daniel, childhood comrades, whispers from the past, and now, juxtaposed entities in a narrative larger than them. As they navigated the corridors of the Grati Labs, memories laced every interaction. Stolen glances replaced dialogues, a tacit language replete with reminiscences. Their eyes, those ancient repositories of secrets, spoke volumes. In one fleeting look, the glee of a shared candy in a Venezuelan alleyway; in another, the anguish of Leonardo's tragic accident. They would find themselves in the lab's ethereal dimly lit terrarium, an oasis amidst the technological frenzy. Surrounded by luminescent flora, the soft glow mirrored the incandescence of their bond. Here, words flowed, interspersed with silences that echoed their shared history. Elysia, ever the optimist, would often talk of Gratitopia's future, her eyes sparkling with passion. Daniel, on the other hand, was an enigma. While he admired her relentless spirit, shadows from his family's legacy often clouded his demeanor. But in Elysia's presence, those shadows seemed to recede, if only temporarily. One evening, as the terrarium's bioluminescent plants cast a surreal hue, Daniel hesitatingly recounted tales of his life after Venezuela, the opulence, the stifling control, and the gnawing void that no privilege could fill. Elysia listened, her heart aching for the boy she once knew, now trapped in a gilded cage. At times, their fingers would almost touch, an electric tension in the air. The resonance of their past, combined with the vibrancy of the present, hinted at the possibility of a future. But both knew the complexities that lay ahead. Yet, amid the digital wonderland of Gratitopia, these two souls rediscovered the age-old truth: connections, whether forged in the tangible past or the virtual present, were humanity's true north. And as the world immersed itself in Gratitopia's kaleidoscopic tapestry, Elysia and Daniel's story became one of its many luminous threads, shimmering, fragile, and infinitely precious. Chapter 24. Secrets of the Past Unveiled. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sprawling Medean cityscape became a network of luminescent nodes, not unlike the intricate pathways of Gratitopia. In one of these luminescent pockets, Elysia, deep within the vaults of old family records, uncovered a series of encrypted files that had been meticulously hidden from prying eyes. They bore the cryptic title, Project Leviathan. She'd heard of Leviathan before, whispered in hushed tones among some of the older citizens of Venezuela. A myth, she'd thought, or perhaps just another conspiracy theory. But here it was, right in front of her. Deciphering the code was a Sisyphean task, requiring Elysia to retrace digital footsteps through the labyrinth of time. With every layer she peeled back, the implications became graver. The files painted a chilling picture of a shadowy syndicate, its tendrils woven deep into the fabric of Venezuela's socio-political landscape. At the heart of this web was Daniel's father, his influence stretching far beyond what Elysia had ever imagined. Leonardo's name appeared frequently, always coupled with terms like asset and leverage. It soon became evident that Leonardo was more than just a childhood friend caught in an unfortunate accident. He had been an unwitting pawn, ensnared in a larger game of power and control. The syndicate had perceived the elder Grati as a threat to their interests. In a bid to curtail his rising influence, they'd orchestrated Leonardo's accident to send a clear message. The weight of the revelation was crushing. Elysia's memories of that tragic day took on a new darker hue. The memory of Leonardo's joyous laughter, now juxtaposed with the shadowy machinations that led to his end, was almost too much to bear. Tormented by her discovery, Elysia confronted Daniel. Their rendezvous, atop one of Medean's tallest structures, was illuminated only by the city's neon glow and the shimmering interface of Gratitopia. The atmosphere was electric with tension. I found out about Leviathan, she began, her voice unwavering despite the storm of emotions within. About your father, and Leonardo. Daniel looked away, tears welling up, the weight of his lineage evident in every line on his face. I didn't know the full extent, he whispered. I knew my family had connections, but this. Leonardo. I'm so sorry, Elysia. The chasm between them, once bridged by shared memories and a rekindled affection, now shaken by the revelations. They stood on the precipice, the gulf between them filled with ghosts from their shared past, casting shadows on the burgeoning connection they'd only just begun to explore. Elysia's eyes, also tearful, filled with a tumult of betrayal, sorrow, and understanding, met Daniel's with a new cautious intimacy. In them, he saw the reflection of his own internal struggle, the challenge of reconciling love and legacy. The silent question lingered, could they traverse this chasm together, or would the ghosts of the past prove too formidable an adversary? Chapter 25. An unforeseen calamity. The sun had just sunk below the mountainous horizon, painting Medean in hues of twilight. Elysia's sleek, whisper-silent electric car glided effortlessly through the city streets, its cabin bathed in the soft glow of ambient lighting, casting silhouettes and reflections on the cityscape beyond. There was an almost surreal quality to the night, the world outside painted in shades of blues and purples, while the vehicle's AI-controlled navigation system handled the driving, allowing its passengers to exist in a temporary cocoon of peace. Daniel turned, looking at Elysia, their hands intertwined, both deep in thought after the recent revelations about their shared past. The weight of memory and the promise of tomorrow seemed to balance in that moment. As the vehicle maneuvered a corner, a behemoth of a delivery truck, emblematic of the old world, raw, powerful, and unrefined, came barreling down, its brakes failing, its horn blaring an alarm. Time congealed, stretching each fraction of a second into infinity. The collision was cataclysmic. Metal against metal, technology of the new age meeting the brute force of the old, the two worlds colliding in a maelstrom of chaos. The electric car, for all its advanced design, was no match for the kinetic force of the hurtling truck. Inside the mangled wreckage, amidst a maze of contorted steel and shattered glass, Daniel, bloodied but conscious, managed to pull himself to Elysia. She was trapped, her injuries severe. Daniel, she whispered, pain evident in her eyes but her voice holding steady. Promise me you'll keep the dream alive. Gratitopia. It's bigger than us. Clutching her hand, tears merging with the blood on his face, he replied with a desperate intensity, I promise, Elysia. I swear it. Gratitopia will thrive. Your legacy will endure. She mustered a weak smile, her grip on his hand tightening for an instant before slipping away, leaving Daniel cradling her lifeless form in the heart of the new city they both loved. News of the tragic accident spread like wildfire. Gratitopia's virtual realm vibrated with shock and sorrow. Memorial sites sprang up across the digital landscape, with players from every corner of the world congregating to pay their respects. Elysia's vision, her dream of a world bound by gratitude and empathy, had touched countless souls. And as the real-world Medellin mourned with candlelit vigils and a sea of flowers, so too did its virtual counterpart glow with tributes, geotagged notes of love, gratitude, and loss, each one a testament to the profound impact Elysia Grati had on the world.